The other day, I spotted a rare Civic Type R parked in the city. It stopped me in my tracks and brought back a flood of memories. We all grew up playing games like Need for Speed Underground, GTA San Andreas, and watching films like The Fast and the Furious. Cars weren't just vehicles of transport, they became cultural icons to us. I remember on a primary school bus, we were coming back from our yearly swimming classes. All the boys on the bus spotted a Nissan GT-R R34. We were just kids, but the entire bus erupted in awe. When I went to high school, the culture continued. The JDM Japanese domestic market cars were the cars of discussion. When Australian P-plater laws came into place, restrictions were put on the type of cars young adults could drive, cars that did not exceed a certain engine type. This galvanized many young adults towards the VTEC, usually Civics but Integras and S2000s also. This included my friends and I, and this is the story of my first car, the 1995 Civic EG. In March 1984, Honda's new concept engine project was launched in order to develop its next generation of engines for the mainstream market. You may be familiar with the Honda Civic or Integra, built and dropped into the engine bay of the 85 Civic and Integra, the dual overhead cam engine, and under the hood of the 87 City, the single overhead cam engine. The specific targets in building these engines included high torque in both the low and high RPM ranges and a dramatic increase in horsepower per liter. Ikuo Kajitani was a key figure in developing these engines, and through his experience, was convinced that the engines could be improved further. This resulted in Honda introducing its first dual overhead cam VTEC engine in the 1989 Integra. The VTEC engine was dropped into many models after that, including the infamous NSX and the S2000, making a name in the 90s and 2000s in the Japanese racing circuits and tuner scenes, also popularized by anime, manga and games like Initial D, and as mentioned before, movies like Fast and Furious, highlighting the power of VTEC engines, and VTEC culture spread globally, giving birth to memes and phrases like VTEC just kicked in, yo, all over online forums. But I didn't have a VTEC. I had a standard Civic EG GLI model. So I remember when I first got the Civic EG. My homeboy David had sold it to me on TIC for $900, and as the word TIC states, I was able to pay him off slowly, in installments. When I think about it, what a sick cunt, yeah. But the car came with its own character. When I first got the car was falling apart, had many engine issues, radio didn't work. I think there was water in one of the gauges, the seats were uncomfortable as fuck. I'm pretty sure that contributed to my pelvic tilt. Man, I was wondering how long will I be with this car for? Nonetheless, it was my first car, and I wouldn't go as far as to say it was freedom, but I had a car and something that was a rarity even till now. I had a date with a girl, we'll call Evander. We were friends, and maybe she didn't even see it as a date. In fact, when I think about it, she definitely didn't. We were young and she was just enjoying the ride. I picked her up, we chose the place we were gonna go eat, and made our way. I had to insert as well, I didn't know how to drive. I was just learning, nor did I have a license, plus it was a manual, stick for my American friends. So as a learner driver does, I'm crunching gears, stalling, stopping, my hands were full. I looked like a mess, and Evander seemed to be completely unaware or just didn't care, until disaster struck. The rear view mirror fell off mid-drive and Evander had to hold it up for me like a G until misfortune struck again and smoke started pouring out from under the hood. I stopped the car, got out, popped the hood, and there was no coolant. Lucky for me, one of the first things I bought with the car was coolant. I poured the coolant in the radiator, and after some time I could see liquid under my feet. I looked under the car to see that there was a decent sized crack in my radiator. I'm like, fuck, it's just problem after problem with this car, as I'm frantically calling friends and asking for advice. Another car rocks up. I thought maybe it was the house owners next to me, or even better yet, someone had stopped to help. Evander gets out the car and she's like, I'm gonna go. Before I could even respond, with a stupid look on my face of shame, embarrassment and worry, she walks up to a Mercedes, jumps in, and they drive off together. The guy and Evander looked at me as they drove off, with my hood up, wide-eyed, confused, in my trackies, while I watched them drive off. I believe that was one of my first few memories with the car, and I believe that car was trying to teach me something, or at least that's the lesson I was gonna take out of it, because the car was good to go 10 minutes later. That Civic taught me a lot, about patience, problem solving, and humility. It wasn't just a car, it was a teacher, a friend, and sometimes a reminder to laugh at myself. Even though I moved on from that car, my love for Hondas stayed. I learned that cars aren't just status symbols or speed machines. They're memories, connections, and in some ways, mirrors of our growth. If I could, I'd still buy a Honda. Maybe even a Civic Type R one day. Because when I look back, it wasn't a Lamborghini or Ferrari that got me through those years. It was a humble Honda, grinding through the struggles of life, just like me.